Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your Whisky neighbor here. Welcome to the Nook. It's Sunday. I think I'm finally getting back to shooting just some samples on a Sunday, and I've got a couple of local Canadian samples. These are local Alberta samples. I have with me here, it's called The Scientist. It's a single malt from Burwood Distillery in Calgary. And then I have a sample from Andy, which I think is the Bee Whisperer, also from Burwood, also from Calgary. Well, wait, same distillery. Anyways, so if you have any local Canadian samples, why don't you pour a little bit of some Canadian whiskey? If you've got anything from Burwood, even better. When you come back, we'll nose and taste The Scientist, a single malt from a small distillery in Calgary. And then we'll look at their Bee Whisperer, which is their single malt with honey spirit. Pretty cool. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. It's a very tiny sample bottle, so I'll do some pre-roll or something so you can see a zoom in of the bottle. But I don't know enough about Burwood Distillery. I believe they started because they sell so many natural honey products that they started as, aviary? No, that's birds. What do you call apothecary? Nope. I'm blanking on what you call a bee production, a honey production location. Why is that blanking? Anyways, I think they started with honey. And then, they tried different products of honey. And I believe they made, honey spirit. So they're already working in distilling. And then they thought, hey, let's try some single malt. So this, The Scientist, is released at 53.2%. And while I did see it on shelves, it was incredibly limited. So I'm hoping that there'll be a batch 3, because they've already done batch 1 and batch 2, and that might be your chance to give it a try if any of this sounds good. So this is The Scientist, 53.2. It's a single malt, all local grains. I imagine it's 3 years old and young. And I couldn't find the casks that it was distilled in, but we'll see what the nose and taste gives us. The Scientist. Oh, nice. I was expecting sweet. I've been reading about all their honey products, and it is sweet, but I got a husk malt characteristic, so a young single malt. But a depth, an interesting, like already a little oak, little graham cracker, little, something that's not just really light and sweet. I was expecting it to be more Canadian whiskey, right? Where it's lots of corn and you reuse barrels, so it's very distillate forward. And it smells young, but it smells like a single malt. Cheers. Okay. It is nice and creamy and has good malt character, malt tone. It's hot. And it's 53.2%, but it's hot like black and white peppers and hugging, going down the chest, biting a little bit. I'm gonna try putting some water on it even right away, because like there's these good single malt flavors, a little bit of oak balance in there, but it is surprisingly hot. And I know people might tune in if it's the first time you see me, and you're like, well, yeah, it's way more than 40%. I've walked my way through a fair amount of cask strength whiskeys, and this drink's a lot hotter than some whiskeys that are playing around in that range. So I'm gonna give it a moment. Actually, maybe I'll cut and give it a moment to rest. So I've rested a little bit, or the whiskey's rested. And I will say, reading their website, they put this single malt into a number of competitions, and it seemed to come out quite strong. Now I'm getting a light pear, little bit of citrus on the nose. More of that cream of wheat, graham cracker, young malt. But it did add a little bit of that, light pear, very light pineapple. That's maybe too strong. but some fruit came out with the water on the palate. This one is significantly better with water and rest. I now can play in better baking spice instead of all that heat, and like cocoa, even like a little bit of light chocolate, buttery, like a buttered Werther. It's not that sweet caramel, not as much as that. So I don't want to say that, but it's got a little kind of a buttery quality to it. Wow, water really improved this one. I would say if you're lucky enough to try the Scientist, of course, try it however you like. But I would recommend a splash of water, and then it's a pretty good dram. So I got this sample from Whiskey Drop in Edmonton. Very thankful for that group. They're so supportive. And this sample came from Andy, a great supportive young man here in Edmonton as well. And this is the Bee Whisperer. So if I read it right on their website, it's their single malt, but then they have added honey spirit. I don't know what that means. Is it distilled spirit? Is it aged spirit? It was a struggle for me because at one point I thought it was single malt into a cask that aged honey. But then later on there was another sentence that sounded like they added a little bit of honey spirit in this, the Bee Whisperer. Now it's released at 46%, so it's a ways down from the 53.2. Let's try it on the nose and palate. Now that's interesting. It is sweeter, vanilla, a little floral, but I'm getting a tartness. I'm getting a little bit of sourness, something in there. Okay, so sweeter, lighter, but to me, there's a little souring in the nose. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. So that's a pretty light spirit. I'm going to say a little more ginger, a little more, continued with that honeyed graham cracker. It's definitely lighter on the palate. Almost all the spicing that I was getting in here, like the peppering, I would say, isn't present here on the 46. It's much more relaxed. It is sweeter. The sour that's in the nose doesn't show up too much in the palate. Maybe one more sip. So I think it's more approachable, sweet, easier to drink. Could have a broad appeal. That sourness in the nose turned into a little bit of bitter quality in the palate, and now playing in the early finish. These are just first thoughts. But for me, while it's interesting to try a little bit of some kind of fermented honey spirit in your single malt, I actually like the flavors of the Scientist better. I think it's richer. It did need water for my palate. Could be time of day. It could be a million reasons why, but with water, it opened up and had much more interesting flavors. Like I said, those edges of cocos and a little bit of almond maybe in that. So I like the Scientist a fair amount. They're asking a pretty penny for a young spirit, but we'll see what batch 3 comes out as. The Bee Whisperer for me, with the souring on the nose and a little bit bitter in the palate and the thinner flavor profile, it's not bad, but it's not something I'm going to chase a bottle down for. Hey, thanks for joining me here this Sunday. I hope you've had a good weekend, and I hope that the coming work week is just a good week. I don't know about you, but I need a Monday to Friday, getting stuff done, and meeting the expectations, the people I report to, and supporting those that I work alongside. I just really hope you two have a fantastic week coming up. Take care.